I've asked Peter to record this because what I'm about to share with you is going to tie in with what Catherine Joyce had just shared, and I never want to forget this as long as I live. I think sometimes we often do that. We forget what the Lord has done, and I don't want to do that, so that's why I'm just going to videotape this. I need to tell you a story. Does anybody want to hear a story about a miracle? Because I've got a story about a miracle. I love to talk in front of people. I absolutely love it. But I don't like talking about myself. And so you're going to have to bear with me on this one. Give me a minute to tell you a story, and then I honestly believe that somebody's life is going to change today. I honestly believe that. About 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, particularly aggressive form. And my last battle was it ended about 3 years ago. And among other things, it took about 25 pounds off me. If you can find 25 pounds to spare here. It doesn't fight fair, and it doesn't fight to do anything but destroy. And thankfully, right before, literally 3 months before I was scheduled for surgery for bowel resection. Thank you. Say it out loud. To remove sections of my bowel. The Lord brought somebody into my life who introduced me to a natural product that, anyway, another miracle there. I was in complete remission for 3 years, up till the day this October that my wife and I booked our start date for RTF with Hans and Theodora. The very date that we confirmed the start date is when I became symptomatic again for the first time in 3 years. That was in October. We did RTF the week we started Thanksgiving weekend, and continued, and if you've ever done if you haven't, first of all, you have to, because it's like an unofficial motto of the church, get inner healing. So I'll just ask that on hashtag get inner healing, Catherine. And for 2 weeks after that, it was absolute bliss, to have all of the, it's like when you do your spring cleaning, or you finally clean out your garage, or clean out your car, and everything's just great. The car seems to run cleaner, or better when it's clean and stuff. And then exactly 2 weeks after, then I started to get very sick again. And it started to affect my ability to do a lot of things. For me, it started to affect my joints, my legs, my ability to stand. I like to, I don't know if anybody noticed, I like to be a little bit mobile when the music's playing. And I couldn't do that, and I had to sit down, and I was weak, and I had to stay in bed, and I had to miss work, which I never liked doing. And around mid-November, there's a point to all this, around mid-November I started developing a cough. And at first we thought I just had a cold, because part of Crohn's disease is it lowers your immunity to absolutely everything, and you're susceptible to pretty much anything. So we figured I picked up a cold, and it just kept getting worse and worse. I kept coughing and coughing and coughing, and by mid-December it was to the point where I would start coughing, and I would not stop coughing for hours, like just coughing and coughing and coughing, and it would go all night. And I would wake up in night sweats, and I was soaking wet, and I was losing weight again. And it was it affected. Nobody's happy when they're sick. Like, nobody's happy when they're sick, and I'm absolutely miserable when I'm sick. And throughout my life, I seem to get all the great fun diseases and stuff like that. It is the way that the devil gets to me, because when I get sick, then I start to open the door to allow certain self-medicating sinful behaviors and stuff like that, and then the spiral of shame that Joyce was just talking about begins, and then out of shame I resort to more of those behaviors, and then out of shame, and we just keep on going and digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's always through sickness. That's how you get to me. The devil knows that. He's good at using that weapon. And this cough just getting worse and worse. And finally, I went to the hospital in mid-December, and they did a whole bunch of tests, and could not explain it. Chest x-rays were beautiful, blood work, everything was fine, no nothing, nobody could figure it out. Went through Christmas, getting worse and worse and worse. Missed church for about a month. Went again back to the doctor in January a few times. She sent me to another doctor who had no idea. Back to the hospital, no idea. I was in and out of the hospital. I think it's been about 5 or 6 times now since this all started. I've gone through 4 doctors, 1 respirologist, and nobody has yet to figure out what the problem was. All right, so there's my health in a nutshell. Now you're all caught up with that. Now let me tell you about the miracle. We started in Dave and Sandra McCandless's life group, the spaghetti and waffles one, my wife and I. Now when she initially signed us up for that, when I heard about it, I thought, that seems like a lot of fun. But I didn't really know David and Sandra well, and the few times I had met them, we've talked about this, so I'm not, but I didn't really think that there was anything, I didn't really see them as being people that I would be friends with. Not because there was anything wrong with them, I just didn't see how we had any common ground other than the fact that we lived literally down the street from each other. But other than that, we had absolutely nothing in common. And so, because of that, I wasn't actually planning on signing up for that life group. I can't even remember which one I was going to go to. And then I saw my wife signing us up for that. So I saw Hans and I used to work on the same property, on the same farm. And I was telling him about that just the week before we started. I said, I don't know, I'm really not too sure about those McCandless people. They seem nice, but I don't know. I'm just not sure about that. He's like, well, they talk about the way Hans does it. Yeah, you might be surprised. You just never know. Give it a chance. All right. And, over the last year, I've come to look at Hans and Theodora as, especially Hans, we've spent a lot of time together, and then having done RTF, I kind of listened to what he has to say. And so I did that. I went into that with an open mind, and I gave David and Sandra McCandless and this life group a chance. And this life group has absolutely transformed my life. Okay? And that's not even the miracle. I haven't got started with that. Okay? This life group has changed the way my wife and I relate to each other. Okay? And I mean, we've been married, I want to say 16 years now. And she's not throwing stuff, so it must be right. 16 years now. Some of those years have actually been good. It's getting better as we go on because, a lot of them, most of me, it was all my fault. But the problem I had, not with my wife, but with people when it came to being sick, is that, this is what I think, this is not what is right. Okay, so Ivan and Heather can fix this. So let me clarify, this is my opinion. But I think that healing in the church has been misinterpreted and abused because, and again, my opinion, not anybody else's, I think we are all called to pray, but not everybody is called to heal. And I think much in this, again, my opinion, I think much in the same way that we are all called to pray, not everyone is called to give a prophetic word. I don't have a prophetic word for Angela right now. And if I go and give her one, then it's just coming from me. And I think, again, to clarify that, if you don't have an actual mandate from God to come and put your hands on me in this moment and pray for healing, then I don't want you doing that. And the reason is because, like I said, I've been sick on and off my entire life, and I've had so many people come and put their hands on me and say this to me. It is not God's will for you to be sick. God doesn't want you to be sick. God wants to heal you. I believe God can heal you. Do you want God to heal you? Of course I want God to heal you. Well then let's pray for God's healing right now. And then when it doesn't happen, who do you blame? Okay? So God and I always had an issue with that because, well, it wasn't his issue. Right? He said not his fault. Because man had kind of misrepresented him to me. Okay? I was waiting for that instant miracle, And that's not what healing is. A miracle happens in the moment. Healing is the process and journey after that. Okay? So I'm going to tell you about the miracle still. That's still coming. So as things started to get worse, one of the reasons that I never shared it with anybody, and I don't think any less of people who do, when you put it up on Facebook that you were sick, I prayed for you because I think I'm called to pray for you. But I didn't go put my hands on you because I don't think I was given a mandate from God to heal you or to have healing come through me. That makes sense? Okay? But I don't like to do that because I don't want people touching me. I don't want. I mean, I like hugs. That's cool. But don't come and put your hands on me and start talking about healing because right away I don't want to talk to you. I have that mental block. Now getting back to the life group and why that's so important. In this life group, not only did my relationship with my wife improve and how we related to, but what started to happen, we started off at about 12 couples, give or take, and then eventually over time it sort of whittled down to a core group of about, I don't know, 6 or so. And we have become an extremely tight group. And we have shared with each other things that we wouldn't normally share with other people. Okay? And we have loved each other, and we have cried together, and we have shared our hurts with each other. And Joyce might make it to a chair. But this is what God was doing, and here's where the miracle starts to come into play. Okay? God was putting me in a place where all of a sudden I began to trust the people I was with. Okay? And I was able to let my guard down. Okay? And there's a young lady, and she's not here, but everybody knows her. There's 2 babies in this church. One's Nathaniel, and the other one is Joel. And Christina's mom, or Joel's mom, Christina, is a part of our life group. Unfortunately, her husband works nights, so it's just been her and Joel. That's the cool couple, literally, because their last name's cool. Come on, I'm working. Give us some. Yeah, gotta lighten up. It's too tense. Christina has an unbelievable healing anointing. Okay? Now, if you've never met Christina, well, first of all, you're missing out because she's one of the most pleasant people to deal with. She's bubbly. She teaches grade 3 or 4, and after you spend some time with her, you're like, yeah, I can totally see you teaching grade 3 or 4 because you seem like you're really awesome. It would be 2 Thursdays ago, right? Yeah, 2 Thursdays ago, we went to Life Group because I may miss a lot of things. I may not be able to go to work, but I was not missing Life Group. All right? And we went, here's where the miracle comes in, so, okay. We went to Life Group, and I clearly did not look like I should be among the living, I guess, from the way we're saying. And so here's what happened. I say all this to tell you this. God put me in a position where now, again, to reiterate, where I was with people that I could trust, that I was okay with, okay? And so when they said, can we pray for you? I said, okay, yeah, let's do that. And when Christina put her hand on my hand and started to pray, okay? That bubbly young lady that walks around bouncing that beautiful baby boy disappeared. And anyone who was there will tell you that the atmosphere in the room changed in that moment. Okay? The Canlises were there. Mr. and Mrs. Stays were there. Brett and Angela were there. Wilt was there. There you go. That room changed. And the authority coming out of that woman was just unbelievable. And the power. And the only way I can describe, if you've ever read those Frank Peretti books, Piercing the Darkness and all that, where where he graphically talks about spiritual warfare in ways that is just almost too cool and should have been a movie long before or anything else. Come on. It was as though a bunch of angels walked into the room and drew their swords. And a demonic butt-kicking began. It's the only way to explain it. Okay, and I don't know, for about 20 minutes, this was going on, and she's doing this with a baby on her lap, who is well past his bedtime, bundled up in a giant snowsuit and just sat there and, you know, was along for the ride, never said a peep. Okay? And it was an amazing thing. Okay? Like, when she was done, she said something that this is why I want you to record this, because I never want to forget this for the rest of my life. Okay? She said, as soon as she was done praying, she said, listen, as humans, we often we look for the manifestation of the healing, of the miracle in the moment. Okay? And I didn't know it at the time. What she was doing was refuting every ungodly belief I had about healing right there. Okay? We often look for the healing, the manifestation in the moment. And if it doesn't come, then we question, and we doubt, and we put up our wall against God. And in doing so, we close ourselves off to the healing. And then she told me about the story of Jesus, who was trying to heal this man who was blind. And he did something, and I'm going to try to speed this up. He did something to the man, and then he asked him, you know, what do you see? And he went, well, I can't quite see, but I sort of see like shadows, images of men like moving about like trees or something to that effect. And so what did Jesus do? He went back. And Christina said, she says, this is Jesus who went back a second time. Jesus, in the flesh, standing before this God. There was a process there. There was not an instant miracle, there was a process there. And it's the only time in Scripture that happens with Jesus, where he doesn't instantly command something, and it doesn't happen right away. This is the only time that I know. And I think the only reason it was there is to show us that sometimes there's a process. What Christina said was that when the devil has a real legal reason to be there and a real legal hold, okay, yeah, sometimes you got to go back twice, even if your name is Jesus. Well, that was Thursday. Thursday night, I had probably the most hellish night I've had in the 2 months that this had all started. And I woke up Friday morning, and I had scheduled myself a shift. I drive trucks, which is probably not a good idea in the condition I was in, but I needed to get out of the house. And, you know, I got out of, I didn't sleep Thursday night. I got out of bed, or I got out of couch, and so that my wife could sleep. And I said, you know what? I believe. I believe. Okay, I'm going to walk this out today. Okay, I got my butt kicked last night, but I wasn't looking for the miracle in the moment. So I went to work Friday. And as the day went on Friday, I started to feel just a little bit better. And I started to cough just a little bit less. And Friday night, when I went to bed, I was laying in bed with Jill, and Ivan and Isabel had said, Ivan or Isabel, I can't remember which, said at the leadership school, that one of the things they try to do before bed is to watch a funny show or something like that. And, just kind of wrap up the day on that note. And that's something my wife and I do. We take the laptop to bed, we watch a show, and we do. And that's been really tough to do lately, because it's tough to lay next to somebody who literally cannot stop coughing. You can't hug this person. You certainly can't kiss this person. There's a lot of other things you can't do with this person that I won't talk about in front of the kids, especially my kids. This had put a block in our marriage. This had put a wedge in how we were able to relate to each other. And so we're laying there Friday night, and she turns to me and she said, you realize you haven't coughed once since you came to bed. And Saturday I got up, and I meet with Dave and Sandra occasionally, because we're doing follow-up work from RTF. Turns out you can't clear out my whole shed in a week.
That'll preach. That'll preach.
As a side note,
There's the point right there.
If you've done RTF, you're not done
Come on.
RTF.
Yeah. Come on.
Okay? That is a process that is not going to stop. Okay? When the week is over and you have your honeymoon period, okay? If you've ever been married or are married, you know that when you get back from the honeymoon, that's when the marriage starts. It doesn't start on your wedding. And that doesn't count as a freebie. If you get a honeymoon, well, that's just an extended freebie. The work starts when you get back home. Okay, and the same thing is after RTF. The work starts when you get back into the daily cycle of what your life is. Because now you're still looking at the same things that were taking you down before. All right? But now you're supposed to be looking at it from a different perspective and handling it a bit different. Okay? So we went on Saturday. This was what, last Saturday or the one before? Last Saturday, the one before. Yeah. And we began to cast out what root the devil had. Exactly what Christina was talking about. The reason Jesus needed to go for that second, okay? Yeah, we finished that job on Saturday. And I walked out of that session Saturday. Well, first of all, back in honeymoon mode, okay? But this time a little smarter about how I was going to go forward with it. And by Saturday night, I wasn't coughing at all anymore. And Sunday, last Sunday, I was here. And I was going to share all this, and I was actually up here to do that. And then, Ivan sort of forgot about me, but it worked out just great because the story wasn't complete. And I think we needed to hear Sam more than we needed to hear from me. But as the rest of the week has gone on, more and more things have happened. I just, to put just the icing on the cake in this. Okay, Peter. David and Sandra on Saturday gave me this book called Releasing the Spirit of Prophecy, the Supernatural Power of Testimony. I can't recommend the book because I've only read one chapter. But here's what happened when I read the first chapter. This is by Bill Johnson. Again, I have no idea what this is about, but this is what the first chapter is about. Okay? From what I can gather, the premise of this book is that when you hear this testimony, or you hear a testimony about something like this has happened, or you hear a word like Catherine or Joyce was sharing today, and then you take that and you share that with somebody else, that's a form of prophetic. Because you are taking what Jesus has done, okay, and you are bringing to somebody else. And so what he does in the very first chapter, which is all I've read, is tells the story of how he was sharing at a conference or something one night, and this woman was healed. It doesn't even matter what she was healed. And then some of the young people, so moved by that, went to the mall the next day and found someone in what they thought was a similar condition. And they asked, just a random stranger, can I pray for you? And they explained what they had seen and told this woman. And she said, well, I guess you can. Okay? And because of her faith, or their faith, she was healed. And he goes on to literally build the chain from her, and she goes home to her family, and because of what happened to her, they believe. And they go to their church the following Sunday, and well, guess what happens? And somebody else gets, and it goes on and on and on like that. Now I'm sitting, this is Wednesday of last week. I'm sitting in my truck at a place in London waiting to get unloaded, so that's why I'm reading this. And important to know, when I'm driving, I have a Bluetooth headset, because don't text and drive. And I have inner ear little thing, and it goes in my left ear, okay? Well, I'd taken it off because I was parked, and I didn't have my music on anyway. And so I'm reading this thing, and I'm reading about, eventually the miracles are changing for each person, and it becomes a tumor falling off this one, and muscle regeneration on this one. And I'm reading this, and all of a sudden, I just kind of feel something in my ear. I'll try not to be too gross about this, but I kind of reach into my ear and I pulled out what looked like a bean. It was literally the size of the end of my finger in my ear, and it was not wax. It was some tissue-like thing that had dried. My wife said dried up. I brought it home. I put it in a napkin and I brought it home. She was not impressed. Now, I'm not saying I had a tumor in my head. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I pulled something about 3/4 of an inch long and about almost the width of my finger that was in my ear, and there's absolutely no way it could have gotten in there because I just had a headset in there. And I wouldn't have been able to hear nothing. I wouldn't have been able to get it in first, but I wouldn't have been able to hear nothing with that thing in there. Okay, so it scared the bean out of me, but I saw it. because this does not belong in your head, okay? And so I don't know what to make of that. It's kind of scary, it really was. At first I thought it was like a beetle or something, like a cockroach. I don't know. I've seen some things, people. I've seen some things, okay? Thursday I went to the hospital for a minor procedure, again, not to upset anybody who may eat, but where they look at your insides from the inside, okay? They found some ulcers and some other things. And here's, I'll wrap it up with this, sort of. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't able to walk around, okay? Today, I'm jumping around and standing in front of you and speaking, and I haven't coughed. I can't remember the last time I coughed. It's been days. Okay? That's the miracle. That's the miracle. Now here's the process of healing, okay? It turns out, okay? Does anybody believe in coincidences here? Because I don't either. No, absolutely not, okay? It is not a coincidence that one of Jill's, my wife is a midwife, so she's all in the medical field and works with people obviously who are in the medical field, and one of her friends sent her this thing for, it's kind of a pretty rare disease, and said, you know, it's kind of funny, Steph has all the symptoms of this except for one. And I won't tell you what that one is because, again, it's something you're going to eat. But what she didn't know is I have exactly that and had that ultrasounded about 3 or 4 months ago because we thought it might be a cancerous tumor. And she didn't know that. And so now there's a very real possibility that I haven't been fighting Crohn's for the last 7 years. And I've had this other thing. So that it may be, or it may not be. At this point, I don't even care. But I don't believe in coincidences. And I tell you all this to say this, now to wrap this up and really tie it in. If you are not part of a life group, if you are not part of a smaller community of believers, a more intimate setting of believers, other than what we're doing here today, you're missing out. And if I'm offending you, good. Good. Because I'm doing it because I love you. Honest to God. I love my church. I love my church. And you are missing out if you are not getting together with a smaller group of believers. Yesterday I had the honor to sit with the men at the inaugural men's breakfast. I had no idea what I was doing there because I'm looking around the room at the fountain of wisdom that is there. I'm sitting, I've got Joe Campbell on my right, I've got David McCandless, Mr. Nordum on the couch here. This doesn't make sense. What am I doing with these people? I've got Hans Ugema there. George Harding was there. The two Freds. There was two Freds. There was others, but what am I doing with these people? You know? And then we started talking about what being a man is all about and stuff like that. And if you are a man, if you pee standing up and you are not at the next men's thing, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Because the wisdom and the insight that was shared, the experience that is shared in an intimate setting like that, you can't do that anywhere else. Okay? What we have at our life group at David and Sanders, okay? Part of me wants to invite all of you there, part of me wants none of you to come because I want to keep it a tight group. You cannot get that anywhere else. So eventually, at some point today, Rob is going to come up and tell you about life groups. For Pete's sake, do yourself a favor, get involved. This is what they're talking about when they're talking about getting close to God. Okay? You are not going to get closer to God on your own. This is a team sport. Anyway.